So what I experienced was that people treat these higher programs, advanced meditative programs as they're called, as a sort of spiritual ranking and something to measure people by.
If they come to the Bhava Spandana, they say, Isha Yoga, that's nothing, this is it. They come to Samyama and say, what, Bhava Spandana? That's no good, this is the real thing. Actually, there are many meditators going on like this. They come and ask you, you come for volunteering or something, you've done Bhava Spandana? No? Okay. You're dismissed.
But interestingly, we avoid life and we think that only these programs, that only the ashram, that only Sadhguru can guide us to grace, can bring grace into our life. And we even deny the possibility that someone has found a way to access grace without doing these programs, without meeting Sadhguru. You can have a legitimate experience of cosmic unity within you, but by the time you walk out of the program, you still have the emotional immaturity of a teenager. The idea that I had that if I put this amount of hours into my spiritual practice, then I will receive this amount of joy, this amount of bliss, this amount of ecstasy. It was like a extraction and also like give and take, right? Like oftentimes a lot of relationships are like that, that we only give as much as we know or think that we will receive back. Basically a transactional spiritual pursuit, seeing spirituality as a transaction. Realizing my own sadhana had become a selfish transaction, a selfish act, was a hard pill to swallow, because I thought, here I am being spiritual, doing something good, but truly I was just doing it for myself. It was all about me. And I remember sitting at the office where I was volunteering at the time, and sharp 4:30 p.m. I am up and ready to do my real sadhana, which I consider to be my kriyas, my asanas, my meditation. The volunteering work that I was doing was still work and not sadhana. At the same time, being at that office, I saw volunteers who were looking at their volunteering, at their seva as sadhana, and they were willing to drop their physical practices for this volunteering work. And the interesting thing though is that you might now think that those people must have been far better off than me, who was just measuring himself through his physical sadhana. But what I found is that it's quite equal, that there is a measurement between those who also do material work, volunteering. We call it as a seva. Those volunteers also had their qualifications, that if I do this much volunteering, Sadhguru will recognize me, or people around me will recognize me, or I will get a certain level of attention, I will get a certain level of information that others won't get. There was consistently this kind of comparison going on between people, and I actually experienced this with one of my co-volunteers who was at the ashram for more than 3 years at that time, and he told me about these special sadhanas that I don't have access to, and about how I don't know anything about the ashram, that I'm so new to this. And basically he used his experience as a way to be above me and to show me that I'm below. And so these kind of things, even though it's an ashram and even though we're working on our spiritual well-being and our spiritual growth, they're still very much present. So there is this qualification ranking mindset, as I just have named it, where on one side we have, and I myself included, we have these qualifications in the sense of, okay, you did in engineering, but she did in engineering, Bhava Spandana, Shunya and Samyama. And he did sadhana pada, everything. He did all of it. Wow. So once you start being part of this community, you kind of fall into a certain box, right? And I always found that being boxed is not a very pleasant is only a pleasant experience if you can identify, if you're willing to identify yourself with that specific box. And if you can't, then you're going to feel left out. You're going to feel like you can't fit in. So what I experienced was that people treat these higher programs, advanced meditative programs as they're called, as a sort of spiritual ranking, as an achievement, as something to tick off and something to measure people by. To share a personal experience here as well, when my wife Akanksha visited me during my Sadhana Intensive program, which was a 3 months program, people around me, volunteers around me, full-timers, they were expecting that she, just as I had, gone through all the programs. But once she told them that she just did in engineering, because this is something that people at Isha always ask you, have you done Samyama, or which programs have you already done? And so once they know, they can put you in a certain box. And so she said, I did only in engineering. And everybody was very shocked. People started asking her why. And when she said that the experience, and not just the experience that she had during the initiation into Shambhavi, but what had kind of unfolded from that was such that she felt that it was something that she must have been asking for lifetimes. This level of freedom, this level of peace, this level of compassion, this level of involvement it's just so much. She wasn't even thinking about doing any other programs, and nobody was able to understand it. People were trying to still advise her and tell her, but at least you have to do BSP, at least you have to do Linga Seva, at least you have to do this and that. And she was like, I never, after my initiation, have I thought about doing any other program, because this has given me so much and continues to give me so much. And so I feel that this is the spiritual trap, the spiritual pattern that a lot of us, including myself, fall into or have fallen into, where we believe that once we go through these programs, we will achieve a certain state, and most of us fall back, including myself, if we don't stay consistent with the practices. But interestingly, we avoid life, and we think that only these programs, that only the ashram, that only Sadhguru can guide us to grace, can bring grace into our life. And we even deny the possibility that someone has found a way to access grace without doing these programs, without meeting Sadhguru, without put in the blank. Therefore, I realized that many of these programs are just another way to feed this spiritual ego, this identity that wants to be higher than someone else, that is still in a competition, in a race. What I experienced is that a lot of the people who had certain experiences, and I've heard many of these, like, I became a snake and I shed all my prarabdha karma, I became a frog and I jumped through the whole hall and I remembered this and that. Many of those who have had these experiences, who have cried tears of joy, have also become those who used their experience as a way of feeling superior. I can see how my over-identification with my spiritual sadhana has actually made me feel more disconnected to the people around me instead of feeling more compassionate, more involved, more loving. All of that being said, if you walked out of BSP or Samyama without having felt anything, there's nothing wrong with you. In fact, you might have actually avoided the trap that most people fall into. A large part of the spiritual factory, as Sadhguru often calls it, is obsessed with what is called waking up, chasing peak experiences, ecstatic states, and temporary highs. But they often completely ignore the other two dimensions of evolution: emotional maturity and shadow integration. Growing up and cleaning up or purifying that which is not you in the first place. What I experienced at the ashram made me understand that states of consciousness are not stages of development. You can have a legitimate experience of cosmic unity within you, but by the time you walk out of the program, you still have the emotional immaturity of a teenager. High degrees of waking up combined with low degrees of growing up is actually what feeds our spiritual ego and what creates this dissolution, this feeling of superiority, this comparison, this putting people into boxes and over-identifying yourself with something that you think you are. You think you've become because you did all these things. So if you didn't get that ecstatic high, it's completely fine. You just haven't bought into the illusion that a temporary high equals enlightenment or even spiritual progress. True transformation is not about how much you can feel the cosmos throbbing inside you within a 4-day program. It's about who you become, who you are once you step out of the doors of that program, once you go back home. I know this might be a hard message to hear, but it's my truth, and the people that I'm still connected to at Isha, many of them resonate with this and many of them tell me the same thing. So I felt that I need to share this with you because I know that there are people out there who have not experienced something during those programs and who are wondering if something might be wrong with them. And I want to tell you that there is nothing wrong with you and that you should not feel disencouraged from continuing the path, and that you should also not seek to have any kind of highs or these experiencing all the time, right? Like, it's beautiful to have it, but it's not how we should measure our growth. It's not how we should measure our success.
But those who came otherwise, coming to experience, for them they come and do the first program, then they say this is wonderful. They come to when they said this is it, they will say. When they come to the next program, if they come to the Bhava Spandana, they say, Isha Yoga, that's nothing, this is it. They come to Samyama and say, what, Bhava Spandana? That's no good, this is the real thing. Actually, there are many meditators going on like this. They come and ask you, you come for volunteering or something, you've done Bhava Spandana? No? Okay. You're dismissed. In their understanding, you're dismissed. You're no good. You've not experienced Bhava Spandana, you're not yet life. So, the investigator's experience is very different. Some of you come here as investigators. Some of you just as spectators. some of you as students, some as disciples, a few as devotees. These are different ways you can sit here. Either you're an investigator, or a spectator, or a student, or a disciple, or a devotee.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and hype it. If you know someone that needs to hear this message, make sure to share it with them. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end, and I'll see you on the next one.